Fresh is a walk through the woods on an early spring morning.
Fresh is a gentle breeze that takes you by surprise. Fresh is simple with Summer's Eve, the most convenient disposable douche you can buy. This exclusive one-piece unit means there's nothing to assemble. And it's available in 2 fragrances, or vinegar and water, the solution doctors recommend.
With Summer's Eve, freshness has never been simpler.
Historically, women have been told, well, you need to do a vinegar wash, you need to do a vinegar douche, and you need to do it to clean everything out, but there's really nothing to clean out.
In 2021, 1 in 5 women in the U.S. regularly douched. The practice of vaginal douching has been around for a long time, and at its simplest, it is the act of spraying water into the vagina. Today, douche equipment is commonly made up of a bulb and tube that are used to spray solutions like vinegar and water. Scented douches are extremely popular as well. They don't include ingredients, but scents can include Island Splash, Sweet Romance, Ocean Breeze, and Fresh Scent. The problem is, a vagina isn't supposed to smell like any of these things. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists recommends that women not douche. Research links vaginal douching to ovarian and cervical cancer, pelvic inflammatory disease, ectopic pregnancy, bacterial vaginosis, and fertility problems. But even with all this research, 20% of women aged 15 to 44 in the US regularly douche for so-called hygiene reasons. The feminine cleaning product industry was valued at a little over $19 billion in 2020 and is expected to reach over $27 billion by 2027. But it's an entirely unnecessary industry because the vagina does not need to be cleaned.
So the vagina maintains its own pH balance. It has its own, what we call, ecosystem. And so with its own ecosystem, it doesn't need anything else that makes the ecosystem grow or improve. It does kind of reset itself, reset the pH by itself. However, if it is exposed to external factors, fragrant products, additives that kind of throw the pH off, then you might get an imbalance, like good bacteria could die off and bad bacteria could overgrow. Yeast can overgrow, so you can develop what we call infections because of an overgrowth of a particular organism, not because necessarily that it just spontaneously came out of the vagina.
This means that douching as a method of cleaning is unnecessary. So how did douching become so popular and stay that way even with all of this research opposing it? In 1889, Lysol disinfectant was first introduced by Gustav Rappenstråk to help control the cholera epidemic in Germany. By the 1920s, Lysol began to be marketed as a feminine hygiene product, encouraging housewives to douche regularly with the disinfectant. Lysol advertisements focused on the importance of feminine hygiene in marriage. It depicted images of humiliated women with dissatisfied husbands about to walk out on them. It shifted the blame for the husband's disinterest in the woman's lack of feminine hygiene. An essential facet of Lysol's rise as a feminine hygiene product was the Comstock Law, passed in 1873, which effectively made the selling and advertising of contraceptives illegal in the U.S. This remained until 1965. Because of these laws against selling contraceptives, early Lysol ads marketed using words like germ-free to refer to sperm or preventing pregnancy. The words feminine hygiene were used as a euphemism for birth control because of the Comstock Law. Other methods of birth control, like condoms, were costly and difficult to acquire in the early 20th century. The accessibility, lack of education around contraceptives, and price of douches made them the most common form of birth control from 1940 until 1960, when the pill was put on the market. But the problem with douching with Lysol was that it was a completely ineffective contraceptive, not to mention it was also extremely dangerous. A study conducted in 1933 at Newark's Maternal Health Center found that almost half of the 507 women who used Lysol's birth control ended up getting pregnant. By 1911, doctors had recorded 193 poisonings and 5 deaths due to douching with Lysol. Many Lysol ads claimed that it was safe and gentle, but until 1953, Lysol's formula contained cresol, a harsh antiseptic that causes burning and inflammation. What's more, many of the credible-looking doctors that were pictured in the advertisements were later found to be fictitious after an investigation by the American Medical Association. In the 1960s and 1970s, the pill took the American contraceptive world by storm, and Lysol began its foray into bathroom cleaning. But contraceptive douching had created a market. Women's magazines started carrying advertisements for vaginal powders, soaps, and wipes, and in 1966, the first aerosolized vaginal deodorant spray was introduced. Today, modern advertisements for feminine hygiene products are subtler than their older counterparts and market themselves as gentler alternatives for your vulva because regular soap will upset it. But make no mistake, today's vaginal odor business relies as much on making women paranoid about their privates as it did in the early 20th century. We wonder why so many women today use douches, which are harmful to their health, but all around them they're being told that they are unclean. Even in 2020, this language persists of freshness and clean feeling. The vagina does not need to be cleaned. Regular soap used on the vulva when showers are taken will be enough to keep it clean. The practice of douching has continued from generation to generation, from mother to daughter, and it stems from a lack of education and the normalization of these products which harm people who have vaginas. We need to become more aware and educate on these topics and advocate for our health. This cycle has continued because no one talks about these topics. We need to open up the conversation and inform one another. Share this video, tell others, and let's break this cycle.